Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to talk about a real phenomenon in the current discographic universe, Deutsche Grammophone's Original Source Edition. Now, these are vinyl reissues, only vinyl, at extraordinary prices. It's like $50 a disc or something like that, 50 to $60 a disc, of certain classic titles from the Deutsche Grammophon catalog, all analog. They're listed as AAA as opposed to DDD. Just a few decades ago, everyone wanted DDD, digital recordings, digitally mastered on digital sound carrier media. Now they want AAA. Well, some people want AAA. And that's the whole point. I mean, AAA, AAA is not the Automobile Club of America in this case. It means an analog recording, analogly mastered from the original analogous analog tapes on an analog sound carrier medium that is perishable, delicate, fragile vinyl. Good old vinyl. It's amazing. At just, like I said, crazy prices. I see 3-disc sets. They sell for $150, $160. It's astonishing. And apparently they're doing very, very well. Vinyl's doing very well. As you may know, it's made quite a comeback. CDs were somehow, well, let's talk about that. That's the point here. What does the existence of this series tell us? Well, first of all, it's not about music particularly, or it's not about specific performances of the music, because vinyl people who are willing to pay this kind of price for this stuff are completely insensitive to who the performers are or what the cost of the product is, which is something that I've always said, which is that the best recordings, can be sold at a decent price. I was thinking not 50, $60 a pop. I was thinking about full price CDs back then, when budget CDs were running rampant, that people who make a product, that is, whether it's on CD or LP or whatever, it doesn't make. It's a complete physical product with beautiful packaging, which these have, deluxe packaging, original notes, nicely printed, readable, people will pay for it. They pay for the entire package, not just having the music in the most stripped down possible way, because we exist in a world of extremes. On one extreme, you have these things, these vinyl productions selling at crazy prices. On the other hand, you have streaming media, which may or may not be lossless, which may or may not have decent sound, in which people just want a glob of music with nothing associated with it. It doesn't matter who the performers are. It doesn't matter how it's packaged. It doesn't matter what it looks like. You don't get anything physical. It's all intangible anyway. And that's where we are at these extremes. But the fact that Deutsche Grammophon can make these things and sell them, and they're mostly, I guess they're limited editions for the most part, but sell them and probably make quite a profit on each one because of the price point, tells us that the classical music industry had really screwed up over the past few decades, chasing the holy grail of mass market appeal. Because remember, they told us that everything should be digital, that compact discs were the bee's knees. They were the ultimate in sonic fidelity. And people largely fell for it. I mean, mostly people bought it. But then, having done that, they undermined themselves at every point. How did they undermine themselves? Well, they undermined themselves by making all these other digital sound carrier media, but not getting behind them. SACD, it was better than compact disc. Remember, there was also that other DVD format. I don't even remember what it was. DVD audio. Remember, that was also supposed to be better than regular compact discs. We were told time and time again that this is better, that it's always going to be better. Then came the remastering thing. Everything was digitally remastered and digitally re-remastered, and it was ultimately remastered. I just talked about this. The Cell Beethoven box, remastered. How many times can you remaster the same recording? And how much better can you make it sound? And why didn't it sound that way the first time you issued it? I mean, why couldn't it be that way permanently? Just do it once, do it the best, and leave it at that. Was it because the technology didn't exist? Because they didn't care? The result has been, in my view, a complete collapse on the part of the consumer in trust for the audio record military industrial complex. Because if something can be reissued every couple of years and it's always going to be better and bigger and better and more fabulous, then why did you get it the first time? And how many times can you get the same thing? And there is no greater evidence of that than the ability of Deutsche Grammophon to sell at crazy prices LPs on vinyl. Now, like I said, the vinyl crowd, the vinyl loonies, and they are out there, have always existed. They have always, in the audiophile universe, they have always ranted against digital everything. They will spend any amount of money on their equipment. I mean, they spend a fortune now. Turntables and styluses and things. I mean, this stuff is all extremely expensive. Tube amplifiers and speakers run on nuclear power and whatnot. I mean, all of that stuff. And I went through it. I went through the whole digital controversy where I have friends who were serious audiophiles, and I went to audiophile presentations. My favorite was, they've told you about this before, was the speaker company. I forget which speaker company it was, but they we went to this studio which had egg cartons on the walls, and there was actually an apartment in New York, but they had a listening room, and they had the individual amplifiers, tube amplifiers for each speaker that had been warming up since the 1960s, and when they turned the thing on, all the lights south of 96th Street went out. It sucked up so much power, and their biggest claim to fame was that their clients included Idi Amin and Baby Doc Duvalier. They were the choice of exiled dictators the world over who wanted sophisticated sound systems. I mean, it was nuts, absolutely nuts. But of course, then the question was, how did the recordings that they play sound? And the big irony in Deutsche Grammophon doing this is that DG was never known as an audiophile label. They were never known as a label that made the best sounding LPs. Even at the height of their fame, some people liked what they did. I understand. But generally speaking, if you wanted audiophile product, you had to go to, reference recordings, or remember there was Mobile Fidelity and Sheffield Labs, and there were all these tiny labels doing things like that were supposed to be vastly superior than anything the major labels could do. I mean, the major labels were considered to be evil. They still are. They were the audio military industrial complex. They were the bad guys, even though they had very, very fine engineers who made some beautiful sounding recordings. I'm not saying that they were bad. They weren't. But in the audiophile community, the freakazoid group, they were considered bad. Now, all of a sudden, because they're doing these analog things, they're heroes. They are absolutely heroes, and they're selling these things, and they're doing well. I mean, it just goes to show that there are niches which labels can exploit, which can obviously make some kind of money for them if they pick the right stuff and they do the right things and they package and produce it properly. Marketing works, and there are avenues to sell classical music. This is one of them. It's a small one, but it evidently is a profitable one. And so I just, want to talk about it a little bit, because I just think it's fascinating for what it says about how music has been marketed and consumed over the past few decades, and how the record industry has absolutely destroyed itself in handling classical music. Because classical music is a niche product, and it always will be. And so on the one hand, you have them just giving it away on streaming services, shoveling it out as quickly as they can. And on the other hand, you do have a very smart, focused approach to the various niches in the classical music world, which are there to be exploited. There are others besides pure audiophile niche things, or the LP people. There are other ways. And other ways to sell this stuff at a price. If you make a product that people want, or you can create a need, or people perceive they want. Anyway, this whole phenomenon is fascinating, and since we've been talking about so much recently about the industry and how things are sold and what they're doing and what they're doing right and wrong, this is something that Deutsche Grammophon unquestionably is doing right. And the fact that they could do it with vinyl, with vinyl, just goes to show a little imagination, a little astute observation of the marketplace, understanding who your audience is, and giving them what they want at whatever price you could snag from them. And it's a biggie. And it's remarkable. That's the bottom line. It's just remarkable. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.